God influences each of us differently, but you know, together, just by making small changes, you can make a really big impact on the world.
One small thing at a time can make a difference.
Kia ora koutou, my name is Helen. I'm a Kiwi, currently living in Cairns. I came here in February last year. I've been part of the lake since then.
Hi, my name is Hugh McLaren. I originally came from the UK, if you go back far enough, but I've been here, there and everywhere for a number of years, and been part of the lake since March last year. So for me, the outdoors is essentially God's creation. You know, He tells us a lot about it in His Word, about the sun, moon and stars declaring His glory. So heading out into the mountains, the rivers, for me it's that quiet place where I get to be still and really interact with my Creator.
The outdoors for me is around connecting with nature, because I feel when I'm in nature that I am with and in God. The first part of my journey, I work in the outdoors, so that came from being in the outdoors and teaching young people about leaving their rubbish around and cleaning up after themselves and constantly chasing them. But we go into so many pristine environments, we want to make sure that it's the same when we leave. I've stood on a beach in Morocco and I've seen a couple of kilometres of just rubbish on the beach, and I've watched as a tide came in and swept it all the way back into the ocean as well. So I think we're very blessed in Australia and in New Zealand. We don't see all of that stuff around us, but we contribute to it, we're part of it. The second part for me is that I'm a social worker and I work with people. And I had a moment, maybe it was God's influence on my life, but I had a moment where I realised that I was working with people and helping to develop people in my communities, but sometimes the things I was buying were actually making other young people in different countries even more vulnerable. And yeah, so even simple things like going to the supermarket now I find really, really challenging. But part of that as well, so I have an identical twin sister who actually lives in Perth at the moment. And she, at the same time, it's pretty awesome, was going through a really similar journey, but we didn't talk about it really much at all. She started developing a resource called Prize Life, which really was just about making ethical and sustainable brands more accessible to everyday people. And my mum actually got really sick with cancer in the last few months, and as a result of that we were able to both be in New Zealand for 4 weeks together, and we decided that we were going to give it a go and really invest in it. And so we've been working around the clock, completely non-profit, to help and make these things more accessible to the everyday person. For me, I spend a lot of time reflecting on these values of like being sustainable and being ethical. Where are they rooted in my faith? The first one I pull out of Genesis is that God created the earth and everything on the earth before He created us, and it's our job to be stewards of that. So that covers the sustainable aspect for me. The ethical side of things is that Jesus gives us 2 commandments, you know, to love God with all of our heart, soul and mind, and to love our neighbours as we love ourselves. But what constitutes your neighbour? Is it really the person living next door to you in that real nice house? Is it the person kind of up the hill, maybe struggling a little bit? Or is it that person on the other side of the world who's made all of those clothes that you're rocking around in?
I tend to focus a lot on Jesus' teaching when He talks about our love for God in all that we are, not just in maybe our visible giving or in our visible volunteering of time, but everything that we do behind closed doors.
I have a quote that I use with young people, and that is, you can't spell challenge without change. And I love getting along with people and having positive relationships, laughing, having a good time. But as soon as you mention something like sustainability or being more ethical, people have really strong views on it. Family members have really strong views on it. Friends have really strong views. So the biggest challenge for me has actually been stepping outside my comfort zone and challenging other people, but doing it in a way that helps them and grows them rather than pushes them away from being more ethical.
My greatest excuse has been naivety. What I don't know, I don't have to know, and if I can avoid knowing, then I will. Giving myself permission to sort of change my mind has been a massive step forward in that. I think that we are quite stubborn, and I'm very stubborn, but actually learning that we are permitted to make changes. And for me, that was a great step in helping combat what I found was a really difficult sort of choice. I think a thing that I found really powerful was that actually one small thing at a time can make a difference. It's not about hitting the headlines. It's not about making those huge changes that everyone recognises. It's not around going to tell everyone that they need to go and stop these things. But you as a conscious individual making one small change